Hi, I am Ronald Boo Hinkson from St. Lucia. Well, this year I expect to do some new material. Just coming out of Show the World, I did some new stuff I wrote for some younger singers. I'm going to have a cadre of young people with me. I have committed myself to working with some young St. Lucian artists and giving them that my platform and exposing them to my network, you know. Well, it's more than that. It's more important for the country that I do this, you know, because, so for instance, last year, I spent 48 weeks on the top 100 in Hungary. That's 4 weeks short of a year, with my song, My Good Day. So that was great exposure for people like Shannon Pinnell from FIFA and Ace, because they did the vocals, you know. And I expect to continue to do that with other young artists in the country. So for me, that's an imperative. I have to do it at this stage of my career.
I can remember the rain in December, the leaves were brown on the ground. In Spain I did love and adore you. The nights filled with songs were I yesterday.
Other than the just deciding on the new material, my biggest problem is always what to choose from my catalog, because by now I have a pretty wide catalog, you know, and I have to consider what I did before, what I hadn't done before, and then I have a problem in that people want me to do certain songs that I probably did last year. I don't want to do them again this year, you know? So that's some of the issues that I'm faced with. But deciding on what to do depends on what I have that is trending at the time. And I also face a problem that what I may have trending outside may not necessarily be what is trending here, you know, because the genre that I do is not exactly the most popular genre here, you know. So I may have a song that will be playing on Sirius XM in America. Sirius XM has a platform of 30 million people worldwide. And so I might decide, well, I'll do the song because that's what I've been playing, because I moreover played a lot on Sirius XM. I also had I got a lot of airplay with Blue Light, which featured Eric Darius, who's the hottest saxophone player in America now. But so that's the kind of decision making I have to weigh carefully as to what of mine is trending outside and what will work here. I have joined a lot of great platforms outside, but to do it at home for me is always exciting, you know, performing to my own people. And the feedback I get and the appreciation that I get, you can't compare it, you know. And not only that, our festival is the biggest in the Caribbean and is one of the best festivals in the world. So just being part of it, for me, it speaks volumes for my country and also what it does for the St. Lucian artists, you know, the platform it gives us, you know, that kind of exposure to the opportunity to be on stage with the biggest international stars. It's a big plus for everybody. I often have to go back and listen to what I did and listen to what worked. You know, one of the things George Benson always says to me, Boo, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I'm saying? So I go back to what has worked for me. And I will tell you that after I released Moreover, I was doing an interview with a radio station out of LA. And the guy was saying to me, there's something about you. You're doing smooth jazz, but there's something about it that is different. There's a certain feel to it that I can hear, but I don't know what it is. And what it is was very subtle Caribbean influences that I put in the music, particularly with some of the percussion, you know. And so I hope that when I get on stage that people will hear that. And I do it even more aggressive with it when I'm performing outside of the Caribbean. Because when I'm outside of the Caribbean, most times the other artists or they're Americans and they're doing this stuff, and I want to sound different. So I make it a point to infuse the Caribbean stuff into what I'm doing, and I always sound fresh in that kind of environment. Well, it could be something that you might have said to me, and I said, oh, that's a good line, that's a good name for a song. It can start there. Or it might just be a conversation about a particular thing that just sparked my interest. Sometimes it is from my own experience, you know. And sometimes it is that I want to do something for a younger artist. And that way I would write something that young artist can identify with. So the last song I just did was for Everton. Everton, we now call him Everton J because that's a great stage name, you know. But we probably know him as Floopsy, who used to do Calypso years ago. And he's developed into a great, great, great singer. So Swain had done some music and called me. He says, Boo, I have something that I want you to write a song. And I was thinking of a young artist that I can write that song for. And Everton had just done my concert Show the World in November. Right. So I wrote something that he, at that age, can identify with, you know. So that's one of the influences, that's one of the things that influenced me, who I'm writing for. Then it is often, sometimes I have to look at what the person likes to do, you know. The person may like neo soul, the person may like maybe something really more pop than that, you know. So these are some of the things that influence how I go about what I'm doing. But in his case, I wrote something that I knew that he would like. When I looked at his performance he did with me at Show the World and how the audience responded, you know, I wrote something it is very musical, but it's pretty commercial also. No. And it's called Love and Money. It's about this rich guy who has a lot of money but he's lonely. Mm-hmm. So he's looking for a good lonely woman. And if the two can get together, then he has love to offer and he has a lot of money that they can share, you know. That's important to me, you know, because I refuse to give up on what is indigenous to us. You know? I'll never do that. It's like selling out, you know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, when I did my folk album, I did an entire album of folk music, and I just felt an obligation to do that at that time. So I just stopped everything I was doing. I just shut down everything and just chose some of the best folk songs and did an entire folk album. And I think it is important that we preserve what is indigenous. That is something that all of us as artists have to do, because this is what will ultimately identify us from the rest. Absolutely, because I don't have to be there. It's not my festival, you know what I'm saying? So every time I'm called, I think it's a blessing. But I think a lot of times that I'm called, people don't understand what's happening with my music outside of St. Lucia. And the purpose of the festival is to bring people here. And the St. Lucians who don't know where my music is, they say, what do they call Boo again? Oh, a lot. I can tell you that the network I've developed, I probably would not have been able to do that had it not been for the St. Lucia Jazz Festival. The artists I can pick up my phone and just call and we talk one-on-one. And not only that, the artists I can negotiate prices with that if you don't have that relationship musician to musician, you can't get that price, you know. I have had people on my Show the World concert, and the following week they performing in Royal Albert Hall in England, you know. You know, last time I had one of my friends there, the week after he sent me a clip of him performing in, I think it was Moscow or somewhere there, or Hong Kong. And then he was doing something with the London Philharmonic in England, you know. And somebody like Eric Darius is not easy to get. He's not cheap, you know. But that is what the festival has done for me, and also it has given me a profile that I probably would not have gotten otherwise. So for instance, the early years of the festival, I was booked to do a special for BET, and they flew me and my band to Jamaica, and we did this hour special. I was aired on BET about maybe 3-4 times a day when there was BET Jazz. And so I penetrated the American market and got booked in America because of that. And then when you watch BET Jazz, you saw the biggest names in the world. You saw George Benson, you saw Grover Washington, you saw Kenny G, and you saw Hinkson. So it gave me a stature that I probably would not have developed otherwise. Not to mention the network that it helped me to develop. You know? Oh, I think it has done a lot for the music scene, because now every young musician wants to get on the festival. So what they aiming at now is far greater than what they did aim for prior to the festival. Prior to the festival, you figure, well, I'm going to perform to a St. Lucian audience. Now you have to understand you're coming to perform to an international audience, and the expectations are a lot higher. And not only that, you're sharing the stage with the best in the world. So I think everybody has stepped up the game, man. I'm particularly impressed with the younger musicians, man. They've done very, very well. And the music in St. Lucia is in good hands. Oh, well, as a performer, I'll tell you what, man. One of the years when George Benson was here, I performed before him, right? And I had to go and do one of my regular performances at the hotel. So I was on my way out. And I remember the security running to the gate and said, "Boo, come, they want to see you in the back." And when I went, tell me, and George Benson was to come and play with him. And boy, let me tell you, I got so nervous, man. And then, so I went standing by the engineer, because that's where you hear the sound the best, you know. And in the middle of his concert, he said, "It's Boo in the audience, come on stage." And that was one of my memorable occasions, because you're talking about the best guitar player in the world inviting you on stage with him, you know. And then also being invited on stage by Earl Klug to play with him too, you know. And these are two of my really, two of the guitarists that I really look up to, you know. And also, haven't seen some of the greatest names in the world in St. Lucia, man. You know, it's like a blessing, man. You know, to sit there and watch McCoy Tyner sitting right in front of me performing at the Cultural Center, and to hear people like Bobby Watson and these the greatest names in the world to have come here and just, you know, to have seen Nancy Wilson live, to see Santana and Earth, Wind and Fire, man. If that does not motivate you as a musician, well, nothing else will. I think performing with the international artist presents a bit of a challenge, because you have to step up. You know what I'm saying? You have to step it up. You just have to present something that is better than the norm. And being on the stage with the local artists, it is exciting for me, because I love to see the local artists step up to the plate also, you know, and I'm excited about the experience that it gives them. And what it does for them is it makes them aspire to something greater than the norm. We cannot, in this business is very highly competitive, and to get to that level, it demands of you that you prepare thoroughly. And not only that, the other thing is that because of the seismic shift in the way the music business operates, we no longer make money selling CDs. Streaming is a bit of a rip-off. Not a bit, it's a massive rip-off. So your money has to be made of live performances. And I think the younger musicians understand that clearly. So I can see where they're going, and I'm really excited for them. From an emotional perspective, right? I think performing for Nelson Mandela and meeting him, you know, when Mandela came here, the government commissioned me to do the music for the visit, you know. So that was something that I've never forgotten. And in spite of the fact I played, well, Super Bowl is one of my defining moments. So I did Super Bowl 13. Pittsburgh Steelers and Dallas Cowboys. I knew nothing about American football at the time, you know, but just being there and performing as part of the halftime show was, it was so exciting, man, you know. And not only that, I think I was particularly proud that I can take my music and take it to that level and do that for my country, because if you Google Super Bowl 13 and the amount of people who viewed that game, you'll see anything between 70 and 100 something million people that watched that game. And I was part of that, you know. But for me, what's more important is that I stood on the map of St. Lucia. And at the time, we were still in the embryonic stage of the tourism industry. So I understood clearly what I was doing for my country in terms of tourism and selling my country at that level, you know. So that was a great moment for me. You know, when I get on the international scene, it's always for me about St. Lucia, you know. It's bigger than Boo. So when I go to do, the times I've done the Lincoln Center, it's, the band that we used was made up of musicians from all over the world, you know. And I would always often say to them when they introduce me, just don't say Ronald Hinkson, just make sure you say I'm from St. Lucia, because when my guitar is there, they just see a guitar. Anybody from anywhere can play a guitar. But so I need you to say that my name, but you must say that I'm from St. Lucia. So last year when I was on the top 100 in Hungary for 48 weeks, that's not a chart in Hungary, it was an international chart. And when I look at the chart, there was Herbie Hancock, there's Peter White, there's Chuck Loeb, all these biggest names in the world, and Boeing from St. Lucia. So these are all really defining moments for me and my music. And I always put these things, the bigger things I do, I always put them in the context of St. Lucia, because we need to enjoy that kind of exposure for the country. And what I also hope is that these defining moments can inspire the young St. Lucians to see what can be done, you know. I mean, when I went to the White House, I literally canceled everything I had to take a backseat just to go do that, because I understood clearly what that could do for my stature and what it can do for my press kit. You know what I'm saying? Not many people can say that, you know. This guitar, this particular one, right? Well, I have a lot of guitars. I have about maybe 15 or so, you know. But this one is very special because this is a 1958, what we call an ES335. And I won't tell you the value on camera because somebody might steal it. but I can buy a new one like this for 4,000 US or so. But it's never going to sound like this because this is a 1958 model. And because of the age of the wood, the sound I can get from it, that warmth, I can't get it from a new one. I was performing at Windjammer one night, and one of the tourists came to me and said, "What guitar are you using there?" I said, "This is the Gibson ES335. He said, "What year?" I said, "58. And he looked at it and he said, "Well, I'll offer you 20,000 US for it." I think he probably he thought I didn't know what I had, you know. And then I also went to Monaco. I went to Monaco to perform. There was something happened there, and then they booked Wycliffe and myself. And the guy who opened for me said to me, "Man, wow, what guitar you have there?" I told him. And he said, "Where did you come from with that?" I said, "St. Lucia." He said, "Where was that?" "Where is St. Lucia?" I said, "In the Caribbean." He put it on his head. And he told me that guitar should be in a glass case. Over the following week, we're going to Trinidad. We're going to do a smaller festival in Trinidad. And we are just negotiating to go to Indonesia for the Java Jazz Festival. And hopefully some more things will happen in the year, you know. I just want to implore St. Lucians to come out and support the festival. This year is going to be a really good one, trust me. It's going to be really good. We have some great acts. Some of the best in the world, people like Matteo Mancuso. Matteo Mancuso is the best guitarist in the world right now. All the great guitarists in the world are clamoring to play with him. And for us to have somebody of that stature here is awesome. You know, we have Jazzy Horn, a lot of great acts, great acts. And you know what too about the festival this year is that there's something for everybody. And people say, well, we have so-and-so, that's not jazz. I'll tell you what, every festival I've been to, there's something other than jazz there. Because everybody wants to get numbers. Because jazz is really a niche market. And it cannot be, the audience numbers cannot be compared to the other musical genres. So everybody is mixing it up so that they can get, you know. So I want to implore everybody to come out in large numbers, bigger than we did last year.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.